sky. Don't let it all go passing by. You know you only get one life.
The Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness, which unites your body to your thoughts." Welcome to the Bare Essentials podcast. Today's guest is someone who embodies that truth in every way. Vitomir Maričić is a world-class freediver, a coach, and the current Guinness World Record holder for the longest breath held underwater at 29 minutes and 3 seconds. But this conversation isn't just about records. It's about fear, silence, resilience, and what happens when a human being surrenders to the depths, not just of the ocean, but of themselves. Vitomir's story reminds us that what looks impossible from the outside can become possible when we learn to quiet the noise within. Let's welcome Vitomir Maričić to the show. Vitomir, how you doing? Thanks for joining me.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me. Doing okay, doing good.
Well, like I said, I saw news of you and what you accomplished, and I really love having interesting people on the show. And when I saw that, on a whim, I said, I need to reach out to him and see if he'd be willing to come on and have a conversation. So, thank you so much. I appreciate it. For those over here, especially my part of the world, the United States, that may not be familiar with you, would you mind doing a brief introduction?
So my name is Vitomir Maričić. I'm from Croatia. I've done crazy stuff in my life, but in the recent years, I've been a professional freediver for the last 8, 9 years. And now I'm actively competing and doing freediving education and a competition, trying to move the sport forward.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was amazed when I found out about what you accomplished, and I couldn't wait to have this conversation with you. I guess where I want to start, obviously we'll get into it, but you've set, some records, and the most recent one's amazing. What would you say was the first thing that pulled you into the water, I'll say, as a way of life rather than just a sport?
Hard to say that it was something specifically that pulled me in. It was more of something that I've grown with. I've spent my life by the sea, and I'm born in a city on the sea, and I've spent my summers on the islands with my grandparents. So more or less, I've always been connected to the sea this way or the other, and then just spending so much time in water, I guess, creates a certain connection, or at least, if not creates a connection, it demystifies the taboo that all of us have in a way, because I see this when we do education for free divers, for breathing, for anything in the water. People, as much as they like it, it's like it's foreign territory. They're not super familiar with it. They don't really know how to swim properly, to breath hold, to be underwater. It's still a stressful environment, even for me and for everyone, even elite free divers. There always is a certain layer of stress underwater. So for me, maybe it was just a little bit closer in a way that it was a little bit more demystified from the early age.
Yeah, and I think I know for me, I like the water, but I will not lie. I think I can feel myself if I'm underwater for even a little bit. I start to feel myself get stressed. So again, like I said, when I saw what you do, I said, this is something I wanted to speak about because I can see from even the way you answered that there's this aspect of resilience and you find out about yourself. And the thing I wanted to ask next was, I would say, in what you do free diving, to me, it seems like it's almost as much about silence as it is about breath. What would you say that silence has taught you about yourself?
Huh, interesting question. I probably wouldn't relate it to silence, or if I would say silence, then I would maybe more draw a parallel between silence and being more introspective, understanding yourself better and facing your discomforts or fears or anxieties or anything that you would start feeling, like you said, when you get into the water, at a certain point, you start feeling something strange. So when you're diving, when you're learning to dive and getting the basic skills, this is exactly what you're getting. This is exactly what you're learning. So this introspection, this silence is much more comfortable when you have the tools to manage it, to navigate it, and to then make it comfortable for you. Because we tend to fear everything that's unknown. And as soon as we get some knowledge and some tools to navigate these grounds, then it becomes your own, and you start enjoying it. And with this, with every little victory and every little movement of your borders and limits, whether it's just your discomfort or any kind of stress or athletic ability, you are progressing and opening new areas for yourself.
I really like the way you answered that. And you mentioned the word fear. Vitomir, what would you say when fear rises, whether it's underwater or just in everyday life? How do you meet it without letting it control you?
Um, I'm not sure. Hmm, I can get questions about fear often. I wouldn't say I think a certain amount of fear is good. It warns us about something. But then for me, it gives me a chance to question myself and to analyze what is happening and why is this fear here. If this is a rational fear, then I need to reconsider something that I'm doing. I don't want to be doing anything that's potentially dangerous or risky. Um, However, many fears are purely irrational, and if that's the case, then I'm really happy to push myself to explore this and to try and find a way to bypass it or to face it or to overcome it or to learn more about it. And then for me, it becomes a challenge and a learning ground, a playground. And this is what I enjoy a lot.
So you mentioned the word risk there. I'd be curious to hear your take on this. Do you think risk is kind of in the eye of the beholder? Like something, to me, what you do seems risky. How would you like? Do you think people in general, we kind of, we take risk? Risk is different to all of us. How do you think people look at risk?
I think it's definitely in the eye of the beholder. And again, it's very connected to knowledge. So perhaps something that seems risky to you, that what I do seems risky because of lack of knowledge. If I would like guide you through it, if we would troubleshoot all the aspects of something that you consider risky and why, and then we kind of make a separate assessment based on new knowledge that you would gain, I don't think you would consider it so risky anymore. I think it would be different. So yeah, absolutely. And things that seem risky for me at the beginning of an activity, for example, when you're learning something, maybe after a year of doing that, it's you feel ridiculous because I don't know, you felt any kind of fear or risk involved with that. It was just about you not having the knowledge to tackle it in the right way with the right approach.
So is that when I also when I was doing some research on you about you've trained athletes across the world, what's the single most, would you say, universal lesson about breath, stillness, risk that every person can use in their own daily lives?
Huh. Single most useful one. Um, I have no idea. Maybe, I mean, there's many. I can like draw some philosophical things, but the first that comes to my mind currently is to not be afraid to fail. This is really important when learning anything, because whatever it is that you want to learn or acquire or achieve as a goal, as an idea, because you have this idea that this is a project, it must be something that's difficult. It's not something easy. And if something is difficult, you definitely are going to fail at it. Otherwise, it will be super easy. You would have done it from first. And many people don't really understand that this is all part of the process. And for something as simple as breathing, or let's say very connected to that, who's going to be some meditative practices, and you're also going to fail at that. You're not going to be good, and you accept yourself that you need to learn. You're starting from ground zero, and then you're going to fail on the way. And if you're happy with that process, and if you're happy with that idea that I'm going to be on a journey now, and this journey is going to include a lot of failing, but eventually it's going to lead to somewhere, then it doesn't really matter what it is. Is it your breath and learning about breath, or breath holding, or any other sport on the planet, you will kind of shape your motivation into experiencing it, experiencing the journey. And then every day on that journey is good, because that becomes the new goal. And then something you want to achieve on top, let's say, I don't know, 10-minute breath hold or whatever it could be, that's just icing on the cake. You are there for the learning experience. Whether you're going to reach the goal or not, well, maybe yes, maybe not, but it's still going to be time well invested if you're enjoying what you're doing. And I see that many people who accept this and start training in that way, whatever it is they're training, they have a lot more pleasure, and then they have a lot more success.
Yeah, that was a timely answer for me. I'm starting a few things that I know as I start the process, I'm going to fail miserably, probably early on. So, great timing for that answer. Thank you. Um, has there ever been a moment where you yourself failed, or almost walked away from free diving, and how would you say that has shaped you potentially more than any of the successes could?
For sure, sometimes failures shape you more than successes. I've had as a matter of fact, I do corporate speeches, and one of them is about success. And there I speak actually a lot about failing, and then I have a list of my favorite fails. And it's an endless list, but I just take the highlights of like the most ridiculous ones, or the most traumatizing ones. And in freediving, I got into it just, let's say, recently, 8, 9 years ago, as a professional. So I was already very robust in terms of not taking failure as something serious. So I wasn't discouraged easily. And maybe this wouldn't happen if I was younger or a little bit less mature or something. So within that area of freediving, I've had many fails, but it didn't really push me back so much, because I knew that I am where I want to be, and that this failing is a learning process and a part of success. And there's been a lot. I've been like failing in pool in depth, and like trying to do world records and not doing them, and going to world championships and then failing in the most gruesome way in the first day, so that I'm disqualified for the rest of the competition. And I've spent a year preparing, and it's every 2 years. So I think actually the first three world or European championships I've in the pool, I was ready for world records in several disciplines, but I had a huge blackout on the first day. So and the rule back then was that I'm disqualified for the event, and that was absolutely the worst outcome you can imagine. So getting that pushback year after year after year, yeah, it's not great, but like I said, it's just one day in a year. It's just one competition in a year, but I get to do for the whole year something that I enjoy doing anyway. And yeah, I've had some big fails shaped me a lot. Like I got badly injured when I was young in gymnastics practice, and this costed me my career a lot of time. It was like close to 10 years of rehab until full recovery, and it was a lot. But through this process, I've learned so much about rehabilitation, about the body, about not giving up, about medicine, I got interested by many things. I met many people. And in the end, after that, when I studied sports science, I couldn't study it before because I wasn't like physically fit to do it because of the injury. But then after, when I started, everything had a different dimension, and all the people I've trained after as a kinesiotherapist or a coach or something, we're definitely getting information filtered through a lot of personal experience and struggle, and it could help them much better. So I gained quality in what I do through those things that were not fortunate at the point when they happened. But if you look at the big picture, everything kind of serves a purpose and tells a story.
I love that sentiment about things happen for a reason and things serve a purpose. And, amazing how you've utilized that throughout your life and in your career. Um, what would you say separates someone who can hold their breath for, say, 1 minute from someone who can hold it for, like yourself, nearly 30? Is it physical? Is it mental? Or is it something deeper?
If you put it that way, like a separation between me and everyone else and everything. It's just about everything. But let's first clear things. So when you hold your breath, when you just try how it works and you hold your breath for 1 minute, you're doing it with air. When I'm doing a 29-minute breath hold, I'm doing it with oxygen. So it's a completely different discipline to start with. It would be like, let's say, freestyle swimming and the fly, or even more dramatic, like jumping over obstacles or running laps or something like that. So it's still running, but yeah, hurdles is just a different discipline. But let's put things into a better perspective. So someone who holds their breath for 1 minute with air would be comparable with me, and my personal best is over 10 minutes, 10:08 is my national record on air. So with normal air, I can hold my breath for 10 minutes, let's say. And yeah, the difference would be definitely a lot of knowledge, like we said before, to start with, because when I start experiencing changes in my body, I will know exactly what's going on. And I have a very good expectation and prediction of what's about to happen. So it's easier for me to handle it. That's very closely related to my mental preparation and my mental resilience. I have a really big toolbox of skills, but also I have a lot of experience in not thinking anything and defocusing completely. So just being in the moment and being present, being aware and existing is something that I'm sort of trained for 3 years of sport. And I can rely a lot on my subconscious patterns to guide me. This is something someone would need to learn. And then on top of that, I can handle a lot of contractions, CO2, because I'm very well trained in this direction. My chemoreceptors are different, and my body is different. I store a lot of anaerobic energy. So there's a lot around it. But let's say anyone who is holding their breath for just 1 minute, which is on average when someone comes to me for a course or coaching or anything, if they are interested in higher breath retention, breath holds, or something like that, they normally they reach 3 or 4 minutes within the first session. And this only means that whatever they're doing, and this is without hyperventilation, this is just proper breath holding. Um, so that only means that whatever they've been doing before has been done without prior knowing how to do it. So just with little bit of tools and understanding of how to actually breath hold, how to relax, how to distance your thoughts, how to create an emotional detachment from what's going on in your body and what's happening in your mind. Um, for sure, it's much easier when you have a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of coaching behind it. And then if they progress very, very quickly, you go over 5 minutes, 5, 6. There it becomes a little bit bumpy. So like 6, 7 minutes is very, very reachable. But then 8 minutes, 9 minutes, then we're talking about elite competitive freediving already.
Listen, for me, when I hear you speak about that, I think 5 minutes is crazy. When I would hear somebody can hold their breath for 5 minutes, I think that's a lot. So when I saw that you did your world record for, and make sure I get this right, 29 minutes and 3 seconds, and I know you say it was with oxygen. I think, for someone like me, for a lot of people around the world, I think it stuns them when they see that number. Um, what do you take away from that? Oh, let me ask you this. Maybe you could explain a little bit how you do that and what the difference from doing it with oxygen compared to air, the way you said it? And then what do you take from that personally?
I'm not sure. It's a game. It's a game. It's a new experience, new challenge. Normally, I breath hold with air. This is a sport discipline, and I compete in freediving. So this is my main disciplines. Actually, my least favorite discipline is static breath hold. I generally started competing in dynamic, which is getting most distance in a breath hold of, let's say, 4 to 5 minutes. I would get up to 300 meters of distance underwater. And then my next passion was depth disciplines. So let's say in a dive time of 4 to 5 minutes, I would manage to get to the depth of maximum 125 meters and back. So this was my main discipline, and I started recently exploring with static because of the breath hold oxygen record. So I started training myself specifically for static as well, and I reached 10 minutes, 10:08 static. So from there, I started exploring oxygen because the project was revolving around this oxygen record. And then the I saw very quickly the difference. It is on paper very straightforward that it's easier to breath hold on oxygen. You just get more oxygen than from normal air, and oxygen is the thing that keeps you alive and keeps you conscious. However, take into account that most people will not black out from breath holding. They will start breathing because it's uncomfortable. And let's look at it that way. A normal human potential, I think, would be around 6, 7 minutes initially. However, most people will breath hold for 1 minute because it's just too uncomfortable to go more. And if they force themselves to 2 minutes, they probably think they're going to die. So on oxygen, you're not going to have the limit of an actual breath hold where you black out, and people generally cannot even push to that limit. But this means that you can go more without blacking out, but the amount of discomfort and the amount of toxicity in your body from the CO2 that's accumulating is going to be much more. It's going to be 3 times higher for a 29 breath hold than it is for a 10-minute breath hold, or 30 times higher discomfort than you have after 1 minute.
So, could you maybe just walk us through quickly when we hear holding your breath with oxygen, could you kind of explain what that means so people understand it?
It basically means that you're not inhaling your last breath from air, but you're inhaling a regulator. It's attached to a cylinder with 100% oxygen.
Gotcha. So for the world record that you set, how long did you breathe in pure oxygen?
So the discipline is defined by a limit of 30 minutes prior to the last breath. I took around 10 minutes from that time because I figured that the more oxygen you breathe, the higher is your metabolic rate. So your heart rate and everything that gets you excited is kind of amped up. So you don't really want to overdo it, although it does give you more, you get slightly more saturated, but it's not so relevant in my own personal experience. So it was more important for me to remain as calm as possible. And then the important part is the last breath. The last breath is on pure oxygen.
Gotcha. So what do you say? Because I was reading there, obviously there's some critics that they kind of say that doing it that way, oxygen assisted records, that maybe they don't carry the same weight. How would you respond to that? Why do you think that? I mean, for me and for you, why do you think it matters to what we're capable of as human beings?
Um, well, on one hand it does, on the other hand it doesn't. But if you don't try, you don't know. This is definitely something that's like uncharted territory, and I learn a lot from my experiments. I work with the Research Center of Diving and Hyperbaric Medicine, so we did a lot of breakthrough that our patients now using the methods and protocols that we used in lung training or diving training, and that we researched them, and then that we researched it with patients as well, and it works with them as well. So from something that was just, why would you go so deep, or why would you experiment with those methods? something new was born. And sometimes it's like that from sports, from daredevils, from people who are pushing limits. Sometimes you get new knowledge. And for example, from training for this record, I realized the effects of CO2 toxicity, and I've realized that this is something that is present in freediving and is completely under the radar. So in the future, some new protocols and guidelines are going to be revolving around that. And I would never know that if I haven't pushed my CO2 so far, and if I haven't experienced this intoxication by myself. So a lot of new and good things come from these situations where we push something extreme, even though it seems completely irrelevant, and in a way it is. However, we can learn from irrelevant things as well. And yeah, I've seen those critics. I always invite them to try themselves and see if it's easy or if it's not easy. And I don't. Some people say this is cheating. I don't see how is it cheating. It's not that I'm hiding, and it's not that I'm having a record in something else. It's exclusively that discipline, and you have the rules for that discipline, and you can do it. Anyone can do it, just like they can do it on a normal breath hold, just like I normally do it in competition. And since I'm one of the world's best ranked athletes in pure breath hold and the world #1 ranked freediver in history, I don't think I'm cheating anyone. I'm just exploring new possibilities, and I think no one can take that away from me.
Yeah, what I like about it is when someone like myself, when I see it, that's what I came away with. To me, it just struck me as it shows what's possible, and if we push ourselves, what's potentially we're capable of. I'm definitely into the whole pushing ourselves, and I think it's people like you that give other people, and maybe it's not holding your breath for 30 minutes, but it gives us the ability to want to push ourselves to do more. I just have two left for you. Outside these disciplines, outside the water, are there any practices, outside of training, breath work, recovery that you would say give you peace and purpose in your everyday life?
Oh, absolutely. This is just one segment of my life. I would say I enjoy everything like a regular Joe. I just spending time with my friends is something I cherish most, and recently even with my family because I'm at home for such a small amount of time per year that now I started to be more aware of how I spend my time. And the same goes with friends. And I really, really, I've always had this awareness of an appreciation of what I'm doing at the moment. I see many people that like they're not really understanding how lucky they are, for example, for being on vacation and then like fully immersing into it and enjoying. I never had this. I was really, really enjoying my high school because I knew that I'm never gonna go to a high school again. And I really have a feeling that I enjoyed it the most. That was the same with the university, with some sports, with some travels, and then currently I'm really trying to enjoy everything that I do. Of course, you're not always going to enjoy everything, and everything will have like a part of the package that is not super enjoyable. But yeah, also other than freediving, there's many sports that I wish to learn more about and to get back to get into skiing, highlining, skydiving, rock climbing, bouldering, snowboarding, surfing. It's I mean I'm a little bit addicted to sports. I think I just love movement, and I think all my life I'm just going to be exploring my own limits. It just happens to be that in this sport I'm one of the best in the world, and in other sports I just suck. So you don't hear about me. but but I do a lot of other sports as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love the fact that obviously having the record you have, the accomplishments and the accolades you have. I love that. I'll remember that so much out of this episode that you can laugh and say I suck at other things. I think that is it's a great way to be in life. And obviously, I'm older than you. Keep that attitude because as you continue to age, you find out that you start to suck at more things as you get older, or at least when you have a family, that's what you'll hear about the things that you suck at. So, um, what I wanted to end with this: if every listener, everybody that listened today, if they could just carry one truth away from your journey, uh, and compare it to their own life and struggles, what would you hope that would be?
No idea, but I would tell them to remember when they think about what are they gonna do and when they're gonna do it, that they're never gonna be younger than they are today. That's a fact. And the only resource they cannot make up is time. Money will maybe not exist in the future. Money will come and go, or people as well are going to shift and change, and so many things changes in life, and it's all about resources that we have. And even our body to a certain extent can be replaced. Now the medicine has gone so far that we're rebuilding everything. We're repairing eyes, teeth, skin. It's just crazy, but time is going, whether if we want it or not, and it's the only resource that is really, really valuable and impossible to turn. So I would just like, I always think of myself, and I always advise other people to think if they're doing enough things that truly make them happy and make them feel at peace. So if they're not, they should, because no one's gonna bring back that time. And whatever they think would be that thing, they should start as early as possible without any excuses, because the time is now. You're never going to be as young as you are today.
Love that answer. I think that's a great way to end it. Thank you for that. Just give you an opportunity here. Any projects or anything coming up that you would like people to maybe check out that they could follow you doing?
I mean, there's many things and projects. Most of the things, I think Instagram is a good way to keep track. It's something that I'm trying to be as consistent as possible. Um, there's going to be, maybe, depending on funding, depending on planning and everything else, there's going to be many educational camps. The next one is actually on that side of the world in Mexico.
Mm.
So there's going to be actually in the US as well. There's going to be Washington, there's going to be Florida, maybe San Francisco. So there is always something happening all over the world. And some personal record projects. I'm thinking about doing the deepest dive in the world in a special discipline design for that. So that's going to be like a 2-year project. That's something that we can attach the most, the highest, the deepest something. But other than that, I'm going to have a lot of personal projects, like just, I don't know, learning to ski better or something like that. And I take them very seriously. It's absolutely of probably no interest to anyone. But for me, it's something that feeds my soul. And I really enjoy an opportunity to learn and to progress. It doesn't matter for me if it's like from a total beginner to a beginner, or from an expert to world class, or if I'm making world records. It's that it's that leap of improving myself in any given field that really gives me passion and fuel to move forward. So there's going to be a lot of records. I generally will keep the audience posted on the, let's say, most attractive ones, but there's always more to come, and people will see that. And I think that's also part of the reason why maybe some people find me more interested. I'm really not so much unilateral in one direction. I try to explore as much as possible I can in my life.
Well, that's fantastic. And I'll make sure to put your Instagram in the show notes. I really hope, like I said, I was excited when I've never, shame on me, I never heard of you until I saw about the record. And then as soon as I did hear of you, like I said, on a whim, I shot you a message, and I think you responded in 10 minutes, and I was super excited. I couldn't wait to speak to you. So thank you so much for that. I greatly appreciate your time today. And as always, I appreciate everybody tuning in to watch and listen. Thanks again, everyone. And thanks again, Vitomir. You take care. Bye.
All right, thank you so much. Ciao.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. What Vitomir showed us today is that the edge of human potential isn't measured only in records or numbers. It's measured in patience, in discipline, and in how we face the moments when fear tries to take over. Maybe we'll never hold our breath for 29 minutes, but we all face situations where life feels heavy and suffocating. The lesson is this: calm is a choice, resilience is a practice, and the depths we face are not always oceans. Sometimes they're just the battles inside our own minds. So take a breath, hold it if you must. But remember, the surface is always closer than you think. Thanks again, everyone. Take care. Bye.
This has been the Bear Essentials. Thanks for listening, and remember, never hibernate on your goals.